I want to welcome so many of our community leaders here on an early Wednesday morning. Thank you for coming out and helping support and hear what the Capstone program has to offer our city. For several weeks, the graduate students in the Capstone program have been working with the city and the Chamber of Commerce. They're looking at ways to enhance our presence and give us suggestions on what we can do. The students looked at 4 distinct areas for our community: community assets / amenities, economic development, public art, and public image. As we stated in the invitation to today's presentation, Capstone is a program that offers graduate students an opportunity to use their expertise and help communities in real-life situations. Students work in teams to analyze data and provide meaningful, implementable recommendations by conducting policy analysis, programming evaluations, the survey research, data mining, and the needs assessment of our community. Again, I'm very thankful that we were able to team up with the Capstone project and program. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jamie Taylor, who's the President and Executive Director of Greater Martinsville Chamber of Commerce, and to kind of explain how we were privileged enough to get chosen for the Capstone project. Jamie?
Thank you, Mayor Capstone. Good morning, everyone. If you haven't silenced your cell phones, please do so now. As our Chamber Business and Community Development Committee got back up and running after COVID, we were exploring how the Chamber might help our community fill the existing gaps in economic and community development. Through a conversation with a colleague in Bloomington, it was suggested that we meet with Professor Mark Levin with the O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs at IU, as he was looking for a community that would be a good fit for his spring capstone class. After the initial introduction, we met with Professor Levin to determine if a capstone project might be beneficial to both the grad students and our community. After discussing the potential areas where the class could provide assistance and the timeline, we thought it was a valuable opportunity worth taking to the city, to the mayor's office, for his consideration of the city joining the chamber to host the capstone class and project. While we are under no obligation to implement every suggestion made by the 4 teams represented here today, we were so impressed by their research, creativity, and diligence. Getting their perspective has been eye-opening, and we are excited to move forward with their suggestions. It has been a pleasure welcoming this diverse group to Martinsville and sharing our pride in our community. We've thoroughly enjoyed getting to know Professor Levin and his students and are grateful for their time and efforts. We hope they have appreciated this learning experience as well, and that we didn't scare them away from working in a small town. Thank you to all those in our community who took the time to meet with one or more of the project teams and who made them feel welcome. Many significant conversations about the future of Martinsville were had, and working with Mayor Costin and his administration, along with Professor Levin and his class, was a great example of how much can be accomplished by the right partnerships. When the suggestion was made initially that we consider hosting a capstone project, I admit that I wasn't too familiar with the term or what all was involved with the commitment to participate. We have asked Professor Levin to briefly explain the purpose of a capstone class and the process of planning and implementing the semester-long project. Professor Levin, will you please come on up?
Thank you, Jamie. I'm not sure if I need this. I was explaining to Jamie, one of my first jobs was as a junior high school social studies teacher. And one of my responsibilities was monitoring the lunchroom. So I have a teacher voice. The Master of Public Affairs and the Master of Environmental Science, those 2 degrees, at the O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs are 2-year graduate programs. Students in either of those programs select a major, which we call a concentration. And we offer over 11 different concentrations at the school. All students are required to enroll in a capstone at the end of their degree. And the purpose is to bring together what they have learned in their various concentrations on a project. The capstones are not concentration specific. So while I teach courses in local government and economic development, I designed the capstones to appeal to the broadest range of students possible. Up to 20 students can enroll in a capstone. There are 19 in this capstone, not all of whom are here this morning. The students that we have, those 19 students, represent 12 different concentrations. So they come from the full range of the O'Neill program. Most of these students will be graduating in a couple of weeks. Now the capstone instructors, and there are currently 7 of us, have the responsibility to identify a client and a project. It's up to us. And so I began last summer and had 3 or 4 ideas, talked to a number of potential clients. But as Jamie said, in July, I was introduced to Jamie by Lynn Coyne, who used to be the executive director of the Bloomington Economic Development Corporation and now works for the IU Center for Rural Engagement. She and I met in her office and discussed possible projects. I didn't really know much about Martinsville. But based on those discussions, I drafted a proposed work program, and in August, Jamie scheduled a meeting with Mayor Capstone at City Hall, where I made my pitch. While the mayor agreed to be the project's primary client and to designate Matt Porter as his lead on the project, I think it's fair to say that the mayor was a little skeptical about what he was getting into. I mean, here are these crazy students from Bloomington, for God's sakes, coming down to tell Martinsville what to do. That's a scary thought for any mayor in South Central Indiana, outside of Bloomington. So in early November, course enrollment opened, and each of the capstone instructors had submitted a description of the project for students to understand, and students then, all at the same time, at 7:30 in the morning, enrollment opened, and they were entitled to select a capstone of their choice, and it's fair to say that by 8 a.m. it sold out. So, at least I did my job of sales. You know, I say I'm in sales and marketing. They're in implementation. So in January, Mayor Capstone met with the class on campus. He explained his perspective on Martinsville, what he was looking for, and answered questions. And there were many. At the end of this class, it's fair to say that his skepticism was gone. He was sold on the idea that these students had something to offer. So my role in this course is to serve as an advisor, not a teacher. I do, very little in the way of instruction. The students organize themselves. And in this case, they decided to organize into 4 groups based on what they saw as the potential for specific deliverables. They elected 2 project managers, and they negotiated a final statement of work with our clients, the city and the chamber. You will hear this morning the results of their work. Their presentation and a 100-page report will be submitted today to the city and the chamber. Today, then, is their final exam for this course. As stakeholders in this project, I'm asking for your help in evaluating the project. So as any good teacher, I have paperwork for you. So I'm going to ask each of you to evaluate what you're seeing. This is part of their grade. They're looking at me going, you didn't tell us. This is called creating stress.
It's working.
Thank you. I'm going to get out of the way. That's my role here. Ariel, are you going to be the next? So these are the elected project managers. They've done a fabulous job, made my job very easy, and I'm getting out of their way.
I still need this. I'm still working on my teacher voice. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, we'd like to begin with a question to get everyone awake. My name is Fariel. I'm the co-project manager on this capstone. If this exercise fails, I think there is still coffee left, so we can try that. Before I get into that, we also do have copies of the PowerPoint. If anybody would like some to take notes, I'll go ahead and pass those out now, since we're passing out paper now.
And for those of us that didn't bring pens, Max one downstairs to get some.
So throughout our work this spring, we have had the opportunity to come to Martinsville to talk to people from here and to learn more about the history and happenings of your community. And we have many things we're looking forward to sharing. But first, we'd like to start with you sharing with us something we might not know about. Our question is this: what is something that has happened in the community recently that you're excited about or proud of? It can be something small you saw a neighbor do, or something that's coming soon. We'll give you a moment to think of an answer and share with the person next to you, and then we'll go ahead and ask a couple of people to share. since you're up here. Do you want to share something you guys talked about? And please tell us your names. We're still getting to know all of you.
I'm Megan, and we both just commented on it. I'm Pam. We commented on how the community came together to rally after the storms.
This question was actually inspired by a story Mac had told me about when I came here like a couple weeks ago, and after the storm had hit, and how many people cooked food and come together to pick up things and called in to help, and I just thought that was really beautiful and says a lot about your community. So thank you for sharing that. What about the back there? I see you guys want to share?
My name is Lisa Arnold. Just the downtown revitalization that we've seen over the last several years.
Absolutely, and I think that foreshadows what we're going to be talking about in the presentation. So on that note, I'm going to pass it on to my co-project manager, and we'll get the presentation started. Thank you, guys.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nathan Smalling. I am, as Faria mentioned, the other project manager. We're all very proud of the work we have completed this semester, and we're all very excited to share it with you. Before we actually get into it, you might be wondering what the meaning behind our title, Positioning Martinsville for Growth. In our initial meetings with our clients, they described Martinsville as a community ready for its next steps. We've seen this development of other donut communities, the communities immediately surrounding Indianapolis, and recognized that Martinsville would be next, especially with the completion of I-69 in the past year or so. As our conversations continued, we settled on the title of Positioning Martinsville for Growth, because we know that with careful and intentional planning, Martinsville has a promising future. Our findings and recommendations today embody this theme, which will become clear as we continue. Just a quick agenda. So we're going to hear from a representative from each of our 4 groups. They're going to describe their findings and recommendations in more detail, since they are the experts on each of these areas. After this, we're going to wrap up with a quick conclusion, which kind of summarizes our general next steps and recommendations, and then hopefully we'll have some time for a Q&A at the end to answer any outlying questions that we didn't address. As it's been mentioned, we divided ourselves into 4 groups to produce 4 key deliverables that we identified in our initial conversations with our clients. These groups are the community amenities team, who produced an amenity table and amenity maps with some graphics highlighting some widely loved features of Martinsville. Our economic development group produced an economic profile of the city, as well as identified some opportunities for future development, future economic development. The public art group has compiled their research into a comprehensive art implementation guide to help assist this process in the future. And finally, our public image group has provided their recommendations for how the city can improve its messaging and brand consistency. Each group will dive much deeper into their findings and methodology, and to begin that discussion, I'd like to introduce the leader of the community amenities group, Cambry.
Thank you, Nathan. As you said, my name is Cambry, and I'm the lead for the Community Amenities Group, and I'm so excited to share our reflections and recommendations with you all from this portion of the project. So at the beginning of this project, our clients expressed a desire for us to highlight and learn about the assets of the community. And so today, I'm first going to talk about why we are talking about amenities and assets. I'm going to dive into a little bit about our research process. I'm going to reveal the graphics that we've created, and I'm also going to present the recommendations that we've developed for you all. So like I said, we were first asked to look at and inventory assets of Martinsville in order to attract new residents to your city. But assets can mean a lot of different things to different people. And so based on your goal of attracting new residents to Martinsville, we decided that a more appropriate term may be amenities. Amenities are desirable features that enhance quality of life for residents in the community, and you may know them as the parts of Martinsville that you're most proud of or that you may cherish the most. So we're talking about amenities in the context of this project because they are vital to the structure, character, and identity of your city. The quality and offerings of amenities lead to higher retention of residents And for these reasons and many more, it's necessary for you to be able to assess and highlight the most valuable amenities here in order to attract new residents and retain the residents you currently have. So to gather this kind of information, my team embarked on a process called community-based inventorying, where we reached out to many stakeholders, and I'm sure some of you are here in this room, and these stakeholders lie in these 4 groups, and we were able to interview them about their view of the best parts of Martinsville and what the city has to offer. We were able to gather responses from 28 stakeholders, though I wish we could have talked to all of you here and almost everyone in this entire city, and we were able to create a graphic we call an amenity table. Some of the questions that helped us gather our data for the graphics that we created are here, and we emphasized looking at the amenities that are the most used and loved, or the amenities that are more underappreciated or underutilized, and this is what we created first. This is what we call an amenity table, and it's a graphic that visually displays the most commonly referenced amenities by the stakeholders that we talk to. Of course, this isn't all of them, but these are just a few of the ones that were the most referenced. We encourage you to use this graphic in reports and presentations to provide a simple visualization of the results from this portion of the project, but also as a way to easily point out the most desirable features of Martinsville, and as you can see, there's a lot there. But my team also recognized a need for a resource that caters to a broader audience and that can actually be given to prospective residents to encourage them to give Martinsville a chance. So then we created what we call an amenity map, and we created this from scratch. This is a map that highlights the most popular amenities here in Martinsville. It was really hard for us to choose the best ones, but stakeholders did that work for us. And this map also provides locations and photos, and also a key to categorize the type of amenity it is. We wish we could have added more on this map, but we're really proud of what we came up with. And so this map and the other graphic, the amenity table, are both available in the final report. And we're also going to provide this map digitally to be able to continue to edit it and reformat it as the city grows or as you see fit. Here's a closer look at the top half of the map. You can see a lot of the amenities in the nature category are up here in green. And here's a look at the bottom half of the map, and you can see we emphasize the downtown square, especially emphasizing the new revitalized offerings, and you can see the key that I mentioned as well. And so when we were talking to stakeholders, we didn't just hear about specific amenities all the time. We also heard about 2 broader areas of concern that they thought that we should know about. The first is that it appears that most amenities in Martinsville are underappreciated and underutilized, but especially those within the nature category that we identified. The second area of concern is that there seems to be a lack of many activities or things to do for families and children. And so based on these gaps that were brought up to us by stakeholders, we were able to develop our first and priority recommendation, which is to promote underappreciated amenities. And this sounds simple, but we gave some specific ideas to this. And this means that we identified a major opportunity for you all to increase awareness specifically of your parks and natural spaces by increasing year-round programming for families in these spaces. And I know you do this already, but we gave some additional and seasonally appropriate recommendations for more events that you could take on in these spaces to just increase awareness or increase appreciation of these beautiful natural areas that you have, specifically Jenny Nash Park and Morgan Monroe, everything like that. Stakeholders also expressed a concern that a common experience for newcomers or visitors to this area is that it's difficult for them to navigate around and to know where downtown is and exactly what it offers. And you should be proud of this beautiful, revitalized, intact downtown square. It's just not a lot of people know it's actually here, coming from outside of this area. Stakeholders also mentioned there's parts of the city that may not be in the best shape or look as pretty, and this may deter people from exploring the amenities further or exploring the areas of Martinsville that they haven't been before. And so our second recommendation is to increase wayfinding signage around the city, and I know you have a bit of that already, but just to increase it in order to assist visitors to take full advantage of what the city has to offer. And our last recommendation is to improve just overall attractiveness of the city by enhancing curb appeal, through updated ordinances to keep Martinsville as beautiful it is, but to even improve that further. We've received so much valuable input from all the stakeholders and everyone we've talked to in this community, and it became so clear to my team and I that you have so much to offer and you should be proud of it. But it may be a common experience that many people here in Martinsville, maybe including some people in this room, don't even realize the amazing things that is just right outside your door. You just may not be aware of how much you have. And so you deserve to be proud of this city, and you deserve to be proud of the work you put in to make Martinsville a great place to live. And so for these reasons, it's important to recognize the value of all of your amenities and to improve them if you want to attract new residents and prepare for future growth. Next up, my teammate Joe is going to be elaborating on your potential for economic growth. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Cambry, for kicking us off and for highlighting those things that make Martinsville, Martinsville. As we were doing research, our team discovered that it would make the most sense for the economic development section to follow up amenities in the presentation. Before we talk about economic development, it's important to keep in mind that when a company or business is looking for a place to locate, it's likely they'll have already made their decision based on those amenities, like Cambry just outlined, good quality of life, good schools, before any financial incentives are on the table. So this next section will discuss economic development opportunities coming down the pipeline as more people are attracted to the quality of life and sense of place here in Martinsville. We'll begin with a glance at Martinsville's economic position in 2023 and going into the next 3 to 5 years. From there we'll move into 3 opportunity areas: meet housing demand, attract and develop key sectors, and focus on infill development. These 3 opportunity areas will inform broader economic development recommendations, which will be shared at the end. The written report given to our clients includes a 2023 Martinsville economic profile. The purpose of this economic profile is to identify data on factors such as employment, income, and key industries to better understand the characteristics of the area and to identify opportunities for growth. What came out of this economic analysis were 2 main areas of focus that we think will have the greatest impact on the rate of growth and the kinds of development that occur in the future. These are employment and housing. To start with the employment side, the unemployment rate here in Martinsville is at 2.4% compared to the statewide rate of 3.1%. 1 in 5 residents both live and work in Martinsville, and major employers include IU Health Morgan, Walmart, Morgan County Sheriff's Department, and Martinsville High School. Getting into housing, about 58% of households here in Martinsville are owner-occupied. The median home value is about $137,000. Median household income is just above $52,000. And median rent is $622, much lower than the state and national averages. Just a few takeaways from our economic profile to share with you. First, cost of living is attractive here in Martinsville. It's less than the state and national averages. City growth is limited by jurisdictional boundaries, geography, and topography, but presents opportunities for strategic, collaborative, and economic development decisions. The recent completion of I-69 will bring new investment opportunities and connect residents to employment in surrounding counties. Additional housing will attract residents to broaden the local tax base. And I did my taxes yesterday, so it's important to keep that in mind. Population could decline without additional housing. Now, the majority of Indiana counties lost population in the last 10 years. According to survey data, some of these reasons include a lack of well-paying jobs and quality of place. In a recent Chamber of Commerce study, more than 60% of Hoosier employers indicated that meeting their need for talent was among their biggest challenges, and almost 60% reported leaving jobs unfilled due to a lack of qualified candidates. Martinsville, though, will be able to move forward in the face of these trends due in part to its location, its amenities, and the decisions made during this next chapter. So that moves us into our first opportunity area, which is to meet housing demand. The radius of central Indiana's economic reach will soon and arguably include Morgan County, if it hasn't already. With the completion of I-69, Martinsville residents now have wider access to more opportunities in employment, education, and the cultural offerings of neighboring communities while residents can continue to enjoy small-town living. but a potential decrease in population and limited availability of homes and rentals may impede the type of gradual growth that is right for Martinsville. As more families consider calling Martinsville home, prospective residents should have a diverse range of housing options for their budgets and family sizes. Now, new housing development has been occurring on the southeast side of Martinsville in recent years. The most recent update to the comprehensive plan in 2022 designates this area near Ohio Street and Artesian Avenue as Special Development Area C. In the comprehensive plan, special development areas are areas of town that have already been identified as having potential growth opportunities in the near future. And so you'll see on screen a piece of vacant land within Special Development Area C near existing housing. And beneath it is a picture of a mixed-use development in Lawrenceville, Georgia, that serves as the neighborhood gateway before opening up to single-family homes and townhomes. New housing can offer a mix of single-family plots, apartments, or townhomes. Now, everyone hates the ugly new apartment building, but embracing density in the appropriate areas preserves existing land and provides more options for different family sizes, budgets, and careers. As we talk about careers, we'll move into our next opportunity area, which is to attract and develop key sectors. Major sectors in the region include the service industry, construction, healthcare and social services, manufacturing, retail, transportation, and logistics. And Martinsville can take advantage of its location near neighboring metropolitan areas to complement these workforce trends. Now, if we take a look south towards Monroe County, a lack of attainable housing has resulted in major employers like Cook, Catalent, and Baxter having trouble finding employees despite record numbers of job openings. Conversely, as the Indy metro area continues to extend outward, more people will be looking for good-paying jobs and attainable housing in the donut counties. The Indiana Economic Development Corporation has indicated there's a statewide demand for small to medium sites for small-scale manufacturing, logistics, and life sciences. With its prime location, Martinsville can strengthen its local economy while forging stronger economic ties to the rest of the state and the country. Cultivating a variety of sectors and regional industries can bring additional wealth, employment opportunities, and create multiplier effects throughout the local economy. The City of Martinsville, in addition to the Martinsville Chamber of Commerce, should play to its existing strengths to encourage development that complements these regional industry clusters. Doing so will attract and retain jobs, as well as expand the tax base that will in turn support infrastructure and community development. Now, when we talk about community development, and as we get into this next opportunity area, we're going to use the word infill development. And infill development refers to building within unused or underutilized land with existing complementary development patterns. The more infill development that occurs throughout the city, closer to the core, preserves and prioritizes existing farmland and the natural landscape, while at the same time placing new amenities near existing homes and businesses. The city should proactively extend utilities to these centrally located sites to make them build ready. A handful of locations are already near major routes, within walking distance to local shops and neighborhoods, and present opportunities for new residential, commercial, and mixed-use development that contributes thoughtfully to Martinsville's identity and charm. Pictured on screen, we have a small piece of vacant land in Martinsville off of State Road 39, and beneath it is a small-scale movie theater in Newport, Virginia, that uses a mixed-use development to have a coffee shop and bar connected to it. We'll briefly touch on some of the immediate recommendations based off of these opportunity areas before getting into some broader recommendations. First, meet housing demand. We recommend meeting the needs for the regional workforce growth with an expanded, attainable housing stock. Toward opportunity 2, attract and develop key sectors. We recommend aligning new development opportunities with growing regional industries and to be selective with incentives. Opportunity 3, infill development for small business and attraction and retention. We recommend connecting utilities to vacant parcels to encourage infill community development. Now, before I close off, I'll touch on some of these broader recommendations here. The first being market vacant land site selectors. Martinsville has about a dozen parcels of vacant land within city limits representing optimal locations for economic development. We've compiled this list using an online tool called Airtable and given access to the clients to catalog these parcels for their internal use. Morgan County, like many other counties in the state, utilizes a tool called Zoom Prospector. which allows for vacant parcels to be integrated within a statewide site selection database. Economic development is not limited to the boundaries of cities and counties. The existing county-level contract with Zoom Prospector should be regularly updated to include new vacant parcels in Martinsville. By casting a wider net for economic development opportunities, Martinsville and its neighboring communities in Morgan County can stay competitive against the other 91 counties in Indiana and in the rest of the country. Second, an all-hands-on-deck approach to supporting entrepreneurs will contribute to Martinsville's small business makeup and further diversify the local economy. The city, with the help of local community partners, might consider creating an entrepreneurship and small business support fund. This fund could help businesses access loans and grants, support students with their business ideas, or help business owners in the event of economic turbulence. Third, the city should regularly evaluate its tax incentive structure for new businesses that invest in the area. These incentives and financing tools should be aligned with development goals and be used sparingly to move the needle on a business that would have moved to Martinsville but for a financial incentive. Other options such as offering permitting assistance, workforce training partnerships with local schools and universities, and marketing and promotion will promote Martinsville as an entrepreneurial and business-friendly community. Next, Martinsville and its peer community should work together, bundling their individually attractive amenities together to provide attainable housing and attract residents. Finally, prioritizing strategic investments to encourage those investments that will create conditions for economic growth. Martinsville can provide opportunities to companies in the site selection process with advantages they wouldn't find in other areas, including amenities, but also such as larger regional workforces and opportunities for financial and non-financial incentives. By leveraging existing strengths, Martinsville can attract businesses that complement the local economy and help other sectors grow. However, any incentive should be used strategically to avoid excessive debt servicing. We hope that these recommendations align with the efforts that have been made by many of the leaders in this room, and that this portion has emphasized additional opportunities to lead Martinsville into its next chapter. We'll kick off into our next section of public art with Madeline taking the helm, and so I'll hand it over.
Thank you, Joe. Hi, everyone. My name is Madeline, and as we transition away from economic development, you may be wondering, why public art? Well, not only does it have a place in future development of Martinsville, but Martinsville has shown its placement of value in public art, having various pieces scattered throughout the city. And currently, both the city and the chamber are working together to create a goldfish mural on the wall of her boutique just off the square. And so the city has shown an interest in improving and enhancing and building upon their public art. And what our group has done is to build upon your efforts, and we've provided an organized framework with which to guide future art projects. And that is both in the report and the implementation guide within the appendix. And so, just to give a brief overview of what I'll be discussing, I'll first kick off by talking about why public art matters, especially in relation to its value in Martinsville, and provide some key takeaways from some case studies that showcase the value of art within their own programs, and then move into best practices with how Martinsville can implement those takeaways to ensure the success of your own public art projects, which will include a kind of overview on 9 key components of implementing public art, finally ending with a broader recommendation to help make sure that public art is successful here in Martinsville. And so, first off, art can become in many forms. However, public art has really unique features and qualities that give it value that other art does not. And one of those is its high accessibility to individuals and a larger audience. And with this, it can be a prominent avenue to both engagement and communication with your community. And we see that along with this, it can have be able to spread messages as well as highlight your community and your individuals. And along with this, the process of public art itself really serves to bring both the community and residents together, which in turn makes individuals feel pride and value within their city. And along with this, that also drives economic value in tourism, because public art can establish these public spaces that really draw people together. And so what my team has done is worked to look at some case studies to see how these values shine through in public art projects. And so the cities of Bloomington, Fishers, Columbus, Greenfield, and Franklin provided a nice overview and comparison for Martinsville to see how public art can be both utilized and structured. And our report goes into more detail about this, but I'm just going to give you some broad takeaways that are really relevant for Martinsville. And this first off, which is that public art is really centralized around a common theme, area, space, and along with this, a committee tied to both government and non-governmental partners oversees public art projects and implementation. And along with this, a public master art plan is usually involved to have cohesion and consistency throughout the entire implementation process. Additionally, the incorporation of the community and local and state stakeholders are usually involved through open access and communication, which is often common in these common public art projects in these cities. And this cohesion really aligns with the value and benefits that public art has to offer because of that cohesive nature. And additionally, all of these areas had diverse art types involved, and within our report, we provided a few examples for future public art projects that build upon this beyond murals, because having these broad kind of art types really helps to enhance and highlight the residents, which make your place both the special and desirable place that it is. And so best practices can help implement these takeaways to ensure that Martinsville's public art is successful. And the one key component that you see on the top is public input is key. One component of this is incorporating the public throughout the entire process, and Columbus has done this through actually appointing citizens on their public art committee. Additionally, the process itself is what ensures efficiency and longevity of public art, in addition to the achievement of its goals. And we see this in Bloomington with their strategic art plan, as well as funding outlines within that plan. And within the process itself, discussing maintenance early on can help limit hurdles further down the road. And we've seen this in Franklin, where they have an actual maintenance plan within their strategic plan. Finally, making sure to document everything also provides a guide to help continuously improve upon the public art projects as the community develops and adapts. However, public art also lends itself to more than just procedural considerations and best practices. Being public art can also bring about controversy. However, we offer this as an opportunity for the community to grow and learn rather than an obstacle. And so, building upon these best practices and taking all the information from our interviews with stakeholders as well as the community and research, we've come up with 9 key components that are important for the implementation. And all of these are in more detail in the appendix within our report. However, I'm just going to give a brief highlight overview of all 9 components. First of which is defining and planning the project. So understanding your goals and missions really shapes the decision-making process. So it's key to understand that ahead of time when working in the project. Additionally, gathering paperwork on both the site as well as research on the art is important, and it can save both time and money moving forward with the project. And overall, funds should be considered throughout the entire project, and we provided some additional resources and places to look for funding within our report to guide this. Furthermore, the artist is a key component into the implementation of public art, not only in deciding how to select the artist, but also how to incorporate them, because they are the experts in terms of what is art and how to maintain artwork. Which leads us to the next point, which is reviewing permitting and maintenance ahead of time can save both financial and legal stress. And actually creating the art is another key component, and incorporating oversight within that process is important. And finally, what could be considered one of the most important but often overlooked components is celebrating success, right? Both you and the public have been on a long journey to implement public art, and it's important to recognize the milestones and individuals who help make it happen. Because public art is not just the final product, it's a process. And the implementation in a sustainable, systematic way to achieve your goals is a group effort. Which leads me to our broad recommendations to help Martinsville and you successfully implement public art and build upon what you currently have. And the First recommendation we have is to create a representative community council and commission, and this will require a city ordinance that will help solidify and secure public art within your community, as well as develop that personnel framework to make decisions. And along with this is the development of a public master art plan, which will have information on both the goals and values and the actual implementation process itself, which will help you guide future projects to help ensure that your needs and the community's needs are met. And finally, consideration on the public throughout the process is important. Not only expanding communication, but their access and involvement really helps ensure that all the benefits that public art has to offer are maximized and realized. Because at the end of the day, public art is important, and it focuses on really enhancing and improving and bringing the voices of the community together, which works together with both your current amenities as well as your future economic development, which all seek to lift up both the city and the story of Martinsville. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Elise, who will dive deeper into how the public image can really work with the story of Martinsville to help position you for growth.
Hi, good morning everyone. Well, everything that has been said by my classmates here makes only sense if you can tell the world about it. So it is important that put together a strategy so you can actually brag about the success that you are going to get here. Why is that important? The public image shapes city social, political, and economic standing. And that is the way of the positive things attracting new habitants, new visitors, new residents, new businesses, but the negative can hinder the growth. And this is important also because you have at least partial control over it. How did we get here to make these recommendations? First, we conducted an extensive review of the 3 websites, the city, the chamber, and the school district. We also checked your brands, your image. We compared with other similar cities and communities. We conducted also a reputation review, and we compiled a report. Our report contains these major things. It's brand and image, the website, the logos, the social media, and finally we compiled a set of recommendations that we call Tell the New Story. What did we find there? Okay, we found that the negative reputation can be a barrier for you to grow. That is something that you need to address, that you need to work actively on it. Also, the city should do more to address prospective residents. Also, the city, and this is very important, the city, the chamber, and the school district need to work together, because although they share some common things in the design, like fonts and colors, sometimes the message that you convey in the 3 websites are not as aligned. So probably making this user-friendly, making your information easy to access, and trying to set a common goal for those 3 sites. Therefore, we have opportunity to grow here. Let's tell a new story. The new story has to focus equally in attracting residents, but also retaining your current residents. You have to embrace your positive characteristics. Some of my classmates already told you that you have so many things to be proud of, but it doesn't matter if the world doesn't know about it. We need the world out there to be aware that you are an excellent community to live in. You need also to create a space for new narratives, and probably that can be like through the public art initiative. And overall, it's about connecting the new with the old. So we have 4 recommendations The first one is inclusivity. Let's try to share the positive. Let's try to work with other organizations to educate the residents to embrace new commerce here. We are suggesting in our chapter also to probably host festivals or sports events or something that makes at least the surrounding communities to come here and to learn about how great is this place. We also suggest you to address target audiences. For that, you should identify audiences and identify what messages are good to attract new people here. You should modify the websites. Of course, you need to modify and the three of them to make them consistent, but also to make them friendly, user friendly. Most of the people that visit your websites are now using mobile devices, and some of them are not that friendly with the mobile devices. It's tricky to get all the information from there. Also, let's use social media automation. For the first, you can have a program there that addresses immediately all comment or mention of the city, all mention of the school district, all mention of the chamber. And of course, you will see later that you need to maintain a consistent brand image. Let's keep the good work. I mean, this is actually something that it's already positive, but you need to add to it, maintain your logos, maintain using the similar colors and fonts, and it will increase the recognition of your brand, of your city. And finally, consider hiring a communications specialist. The communications specialist can help you improve the quality, the quantity, and the consistency of the messages that you are putting out there. Also, it is important that your websites become more dynamic. They have regular updates, something that is telling the people that somebody's taking care of this, and somebody's actually conveying the message that the city wants to put out in the world. And finally, align the brand. So keep working together or improve the working together. And with this, I will let Nathan talk about
Hello again, everyone. As we start to close here, we want to just discuss where does Martinsville go from here. After hearing from each of our groups, I just want to take a minute to summarize our findings. Your development from here on out must be intentional. We've been able to identify some opportunities for this development, and any one of them will require a clear end goal in mind to achieve their desired result. Cities that lose sight of their intention or their end goal can risk strategic, financial, or even political challenges as a result. A good example of intentional development that we've seen so far here is some of those new residential areas off of Artesian Avenue that are being developed currently. You envisioned the end goal, the end product, and you are working towards that step by step. The same mentality must be applied for all future development projects. Next, strategic partnerships must be utilized. One of the first things that Mayor Costa, Mac, and Jamie emphasized to us was Martinsville's unique positioning, both in its relationships and its geography. Being almost equally between Bloomington and Indianapolis, you're able to tap into both of those markets. This can be leveraged to your benefit. There are several other programs at IU and IUPUI that are similar to our Capstone that can provide additional services to the city. Some of them are additional capstones, and some are smaller scale projects that can tackle more focused results. Additionally, interns from IU, IUPUI, or IU Tech can be hired to perform some maintenance of the website, social media, or land inventories to release some of that stress from current employees. Development groups such as the IEDC and some of the public art groups we identify in the report also are going to be more than willing to help you guys in your future development. And finally, the Martinsville community as a whole can provide extensive insight into how the city should progress moving forward. From our interviews with local leaders and citizens, we noticed that this recurring trend in their responses, which described Martinsville as a tight-knit and involved community. Be sure to include your citizens wherever it is practical to do so to maintain Our recommendations can provide a guide for your development, but what is most important in the coming months and years is how you move from here. You must actively shape the story you want to tell. Without direct management, that story risks getting away from you. Development is an active and involved process that will require intentional and informed decision-making, which needs to include a variety of community and external stakeholders. We are hopeful, however, that our findings will contribute to this process as you continue to position Martinsville for future growth. We would like to take a minute to thank and recognize the contributions of our clients, Mayor Costin, Mac Porter, Jamie Taylor, for your invaluable support and insight throughout this process, as well as the extensive number of community leaders and advocates who participated in our interviews, for your contributions to our research. And finally, we would like to thank the community as a whole, who have been nothing but welcoming and supportive throughout our entire project. With that, I'd like to invite Fario back up. And it is our pleasure to present Mayor Costin with the finalized copy of our report. Electronic copies will be provided and distributed in the future, but the first report for Mayor Costin.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna invite the rest of my team up. You wanna stand in front of the podium here? And we will move on into our question portion. Hopefully you guys are all brimming with things to say. Anyone wanna start us out?
Jean Rank with Duke Energy. Was there anything that surprised you in this? Any themes that present themselves for uniqueness based on what you've studied in the last year that sets Martinsville apart from some of the other communities, either positive or negative?
I can take that. I think with what I said just at the end is its position. Being able to connect with Bloomington and Indiana University, as well as the economy, an economy the size of Indianapolis is very beneficial to future growth. Unique, Martinsville is unique in that respect, I would say.
I think as also many people, their first time visiting Martinsville was part of this project too. And I think many of us realized, wow, I didn't even realize all of this was here. And so that goes along with just talking about the diverse amount of amenities that you guys hear, especially the nature-based one, having Morgan Monroe here. We are all in awe of the Jimmy Nash City Park, especially the study hill. That's something that we were very pleasantly surprised, but just everything that you have to offer in general.
Candy Kitchen is a plus as well.
I think something that surprised me too, my name is Nicole Chandler, I was on the economic development team, is the need for, the already immense need for housing and huge housing demand already. South Central Indiana is projected to grow between 4 and 5% by 2030. That's going to include these counties around Indianapolis especially too. So we're already seeing that huge need, and then the housing projects that we're conducting right now was surprising to me. I knew that housing was going to be something that we need to look at long term, but immediate need right now too is really huge, which means that there's already a demand coming. And as Bloomington and Indianapolis expand, and with the internet that's coming through to Martinsville, I think there's a huge opportunity, especially for people who freelance and work from home, to find good affordable housing here with different options, from dense housing to single plot suburban family homes. So
I was also very surprised when we visited that little kids were walking out of school and to their homes, and they were like little kids walking by themselves in the street, and I was like, oh, I would love to live in a community where my kids could walk in the street safely.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. We have a question here.
I'm just curious, because I know Martinsville is kind of landlocked in terms of available land, and we're such a rural town. I live out in the country, but I consider myself a part of Martinsville. So did you take that into consideration when you were doing the study, or did you just focus within the city limits?
So,
I mean, I know the numbers are within the city limits, but
Yeah, so Martinsville has just over a dozen pieces of vacant land, but they really range in size and they range in the area of town that they're in. So while there is a scarcity of available land in Martinsville, it's not dissimilar to other communities in this position. And also it really has a range of opportunities there to where if there's a plot in the middle of town surrounded by houses and businesses, that infill development is going to be really cohesive to what's already there. Whereas when you have available land on the periphery, that's where more community conversations are going to happen as that land kind of becomes less available. And so really those priority areas such as housing and jobs and amenities that you would like to see in your community will be represented in those remaining areas. That answers your question.
Yeah, no, that was definitely one of the things, and that's why we really emphasize mixed use in different plotting, because I think that something that came through with my interviews and discussions with people is people like the rural communities too. They like that small town feel and they like the agricultural lands, and that's important. That's a history here that you know need to embrace. And so the idea of like we don't want to exclude those on the periphery within the rural area. We want to include them, but also maintaining that land. And I think Joe had a good idea of like that's why some really good infill development can happen. So you can bring people within the city and preserve some of the natural areas, but then also include the rural community too on the outskirts of the city limits. Yeah, does that help in speaking?
Yeah, it's a, well,
I will also quickly add, I think that just to echo what Nathan said at the end, it's important to recognize that you can't do this work alone as one city. You'll have to work with, people in the state, people in the county, maybe at IU and things like that, and that puts you in a stronger position. So we don't come in here pretending that we should have a narrow focus on just Martinsville. We recognize that it's important to partner with many people. Oh, sorry, I didn't ask your name. But
oh, I'm sorry, Pam first.
Okay, and then we had a question.
Hi, my name's Susie Lips, and I just want to thank you for your professionalism and your refreshing insights and recommendations. I mean, there were so many things that you spoke about so clearly that I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, but you went into detail and description and provided very helpful resources. So congratulations, it was an excellent project. Thank you.
Was there anything that surprised you that we found, or anything that you were hoping that we found?
I was surprised that you were so thorough, and just by interviewing people and visiting and touring and doing research that you picked up the tenor and the climate of our city so astutely. I mean, it was wonderful to hear your reflections of what I was feeling. I was excited about it. It made me motivated and encouraged to say, yeah, I believe, let's all get together. Chamber, school, city.
Yeah. That was something that was really important to us, is we didn't want to be
Yeah.
a bunch of students from IU sitting at our computers doing research,
Right.
removed from the situation. It was really important, and Mac helped facilitate a lot of that with our initial tour of the city, and then our groups really took charge and made those connections, interviewed some stakeholders, and did more concentrated tours.
Mr. Porter is an excellent resource.
Anybody else?
But just to piggyback to what Susie said, it's very exciting because obviously our image, is something that sometimes is misunderstood, and to have you folks from Bloomington and IU to come here and be ambassadors for us, that there are wonderful things here in Martinsville, and to help us with that. So
Yeah, I mean, just to comment on that very briefly, I think it's important to recognize the kind of reputational image that Martinsville has, and that perception that people, especially in Bloomington, have in Indianapolis. town does deal with it. So, we just want to emphasize that you guys are going to have to tell a different story, and you'll have to find that your way of dealing with it. We do have some case studies of how other communities have talked about that you can rely on looking in the report, but yeah, it'll
I'd like to build off that too, because public art can be, a very expressive way to communicate and bring people together. And so the whole point of, the public art is the public, right? So you can easily address those kinds of history and image through public art, and getting people involved and on board on it can help educate as well as ensure that those conversations are had in a more friendly, open, and growth kind of format.
We know it's hard to have those conversations, but I think as you guys move forward, and as you work together, you'll find a way to do it, and as you have more community input in processes like public art, and you involve the public, they will find churches and organizations like that will start to tell those stories for you. Anything else? Jamie?
On behalf of the chamber, I would just like to thank you all and your entire group for your professionalism. It's just been a real pleasure to meet everyone. Everybody's been so friendly, and really, I think you all listened. We've dealt with a lot of consultants, and that's not necessarily the case all the time. But you listened, you came back with information, research, suggestions to reflect that what we said to you, and we really appreciate that. It makes the information to providing suggestions so much more useful than many other consultants have provided in the past. Let's just say that. So thank you all.
You guys are great to work with as well. We really all enjoy the experience.
Again, thank you for coming here. I know sometimes it's difficult to ask questions in a setting like this. The students have about 20 minutes before they have to head to their next class, or you can blow your next class off. But one of the things, we all feel good and fuzzy right now, but we have to keep this going. And all of you here are stakeholders in our city. You all have an interest, or you wouldn't have been here early on Wednesday morning. So Mac Porter's got everybody's name that's here. We are going to meet again, probably in a month, and we will make sure, Mac's going to probably bring my neck, we'll make sure that you get copies of this full report. But we need to come back together. There's 4 areas that they broke down in their studies. We need volunteers in each area. We need to be accountable to each one of us here in order to take this forward. Because like we've been saying the last 3 years, the decisions that we're making in our administration now are having great influences on our city 20 years from now. And we just can't do it in the city. We need partnerships with everybody that's here. So that's my challenge to you, is to come back to the next meeting and help us put this implementation in process. Because it's great findings. And like I said, some things we knew, some things are very difficult to hear. But we have to hear those things in order to change them. And that's my challenge to everybody here. So again, thank you for coming. Still plenty of refreshments up here. Come up and ask questions. And again, thank you very much for coming to Martinsville.
Thank you. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't remind you 2 or 3 times to complete the paperwork. This is part of your feedback is critical for the students, and I'll give them copies of your comments, not the sheets, but those things that are worthwhile. Please, once you've done that, come on up, introduce yourself to the students. Have a bagel. On our way up here, they were commenting that maybe they should have bought donuts instead of bagels because it reminds you that you're part of the donut county.
Bagels were a good idea.
I like bagels.
Yeah.